Good morning, everybody. Louise Eddington, Cosmic Owl Astrology, all those things. I don't like this. You can't see my new calendar. You can't see the calendar with the last months. So let me just quickly get rid of that blurry background. And while I do that, let me talk to you. Today is the last day to sponsor me for the Human Race 10K that I am running to sponsor for the food bank. Okay, and I am in the lead of all the individuals, and I'd love to stay there. So every sponsorship bit helps. I'm up to $1,200 already. I did have a goal of 2,500 because I do believe in, kind of going big. But I may not get there. That's fine. But I would love anybody who feels called to sponsor me. The link is in the details below, but you have to be watching this video today, so to watch it. But I'll probably also send an email out reminding people. And also, it's the last day, of course. If you sponsor me for $50 or more, you can get 25% off my Spiral Codex membership, 6 months or which paid monthly or annual paid in full. And that is bigger than the sponsorship amount. So it's been quite a popular offer. So, let's kind of see if we can kind of do some more. Anyway, that's all. So I wanted to remind you that that's the last day. There we go. You can see, I'm still a bit blurry, but that's Frida. This calendar is Frida Kahlo, different artists' paintings of Frida Kahlo every month. Next year, I've got an even different calendar, which is just amazing and going to stay up all year. So I'll probably show you that in a video. So this video is for the week ahead, starting November the 30th through to December the 6th. Where's the time going already, for heaven's sake? And as usual, I will kind of break it down on a day by day for a written post as well. But you can kind of, go through it day by day. And this one goes into more detail than the big overview videos. But also I've pulled cards for this week because it's yet another epic week as well. So let me show you the cards that I've pulled before we go through the astrology, and then I will go into the details of the cards at the end. So the first card I pulled is the Three of Cups, but I actually pulled the Three of Cups reversed, and I'm going to leave it reversed, and I have my own feelings on why it is. Then we get Rebirth. And then we get the Goddess of Discs Snake. All of these from the Red Threads Tarot. Okay. Then I did pull from the Witch Oracle deck, which is really speaking to me at the moment. And it's a card I've pulled before, but we've got the Gardener of Hope. And I've got something to talk about with that card too. Quite kind of not personal, but more about from my shamanic training. So anyway, let's dive in. I'm all excited today, and let's have a look where we are. I'm a bit excited, but also a bit kind of like hyper because I'm having so many technical issues. But Mercury is stationing direct. I record these on Wednesday mornings usually, so I can get it all sorted out for the week ahead on Substack and YouTube. YouTube first, always, if you want to kind of watch first, you get it first. But Mercury is stationing direct, and so I'm right in the zone, and it's impacting everything on my chart, and so is everything else. So I'm not going to go back to where we are, but let's start on November the 30th. Early in the morning. I just want to give you an overview of where we're at. I always set these charts for Washington, D.C. because I have to pick a time zone, Eastern Standard Time or daylight savings time that we're on. Oh, no, we're on whichever one we're on at the moment. I can never remember. Anyway, it says on here probably EST standard. I set it at DC because that's just where I do, but also the US is really going through some things, right? And kind of it's impacting the whole world. So it does kind of tell us something about what's going on. And as we can see, the nodes are on the ascendant descendant of this chart pretty much by 3 degrees. And that means all this Sagittarius energy that we've got is going through the base of the chart, which is the basis of kind of security and safety. And we've got all of this Pisces and Aries stuff in the 7th house, which is open enemies, but also how we've compromised ourselves for others in many ways. There's more I could say. But we've got Gemini midheaven so we've got everything's mutable on the angles, so everything's changing. But apart from what's happening with the USA, you can see we've still got this water grand trine, very active. Jupiter and Saturn are a degree apart almost now, but still very tight trine aspect. Venus is moving away from the water grand trine, but Mercury is now direct and moving back to make the last exact water grand trine, or more exact water grand trine. And this is all pulling in Uranus as well, and Neptune really, because as a kite. So even though Jupiter and Uranus will move apart, as Jupiter is the faster moving planet, this is just such a powerful earth moving and value shifting kind of energy, eroding away at many things, as we can see out in the world. The other things I would love to mention as we start the week is that Ceres is now direct. Ceres turned direct right the day after the Scorpio new moon, which was immense, right? And the moon starts the week conjunct Ceres. And a reminder, this is the exact degree of the Venus star point that Venus had back on March the 22nd of 2025 at 2 degrees of Aries. So, we start the week with Ceres, who is very connected to Venus in energy because she was Persephone's mother. That's kind of Venus losing her innocence, okay? And the moon is divine feminine energy as well. So, and the two mother energies really in Aries at that degree. And that's right, as Venus is about to move into Sagittarius, she's already less than 10 degrees from the sun, so she is in her underworld. I did a whole video for that. So what a start to the week. It is another immense week because we have a big full moon and we have Nessus stationing direct. I will talk about that in Pisces, following Saturn that's just stationed direct and is still at the same degree and minute of the station. Tide turning energy, always in Pisces. And also, of course, Saturn and Neptune are finishing up their journey in Pisces. So this is a real kind of, the change is going to come fast. But it's when I say fast, this is over the next few weeks. Immense time. All right, so let's go through the aspects. So I'll go through the lunar aspects first. So on November the 30th, the moon will exactly conjunct Ceres. I've already talked about that first, but that's almost exactly at the degree and minute of the Venus star point. So Ceres stationed direct at 2 degrees 30 minutes, but Venus and the sun met at 2 degrees 39 minutes back on March the 22nd, and this moon meeting of Ceres is at 2 degrees 43 minutes, only 4 minutes away from that Venus star point. And this is as Venus travels through her underworld on the other side of the sun to emerge as evening star for the next few months of her constantly repeating cycle that shifts like an invisible clock acting in the background all the time. So, this is potent, potent energy yet again, shifting us towards what we are um, um, given an opportunity to create as the divine feminine rises. Okay. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Birthing is never easy, right? So the moon, after that, the moon will also square Vesta over here in Capricorn in the sign of the structures of our institutions. And then the moon will make a fire trine to that Sagittarius sun. This is partly also why I'm a bit hyper, because there's a lot in Sagittarius and I have so much in Sagittarius. So, but the moon will trine Sagittarius at 8 degrees, and then the moon will square Pholus. So in terms of the bigger picture, this the squares to this, Vesta being the state of all the heart of all the states of the world, if you like, you could almost see it as the state of the society that we live under, or the kind of fire burning that keeps that going. There's a lot of collapse happening everywhere, and it's going to keep happening. Pholus is kind of cause and effect, the inventory. So we can see it in our own lives, inventory of kind of past actions or past beliefs that are being shattered and broken now, so that we can go into our inner flame. And the fire and Aries moon and sun is heading towards that full moon. This is passionate creation, right? So, okay, now the other player that's very active on the 30th is Venus. Venus will exactly trine Neptune. You can see it's almost exact here. This will happen at 3:48 a.m. on the 30th at 29 degrees 24 minutes, where Neptune is now. Now, Venus and Neptune have some kind of similar energies because they're both related to love. Venus is related to so many things, right, as the big sister of Earth. So I kind of feel like Venus is earthly love and attachments to people, places, things. It's our relationships to all that is, really. And Neptune is more that inspirational connection with the muse, mystery, creativity, the cloud of unknowing, and that higher kind of all-encompassing love, agape, if you like. And Neptune is the modern guide for Pisces, and Venus is said to be exalted in Pisces. So these two, at the very last degree of these water signs, really still part of this immense water grand trine and kite to Uranus, are kind of saying it's really time for things to change. Those anaretic degrees, the last degrees, the 29th degree of every sign, are real liminality spaces. They are spaces of changes coming, and we are releasing the past. So it's more being purged, more being released, more being coming to the surface so that we can see it and we can start to understand even more that we are all interconnected with everything. And then Venus moves into Sagittarius, which is fun for me. Now, Venus energy is a little bit, she's being reborn in her underworld, and so she's a little bit far away from us on the other side of the sun from our perspective, but it's still beaming in information through the core of our solar system, in my opinion. And so she moves into Sagittarius, the sign of wonder with an O and wonder with an A, and belief and faith and trust and possibility. Sagittarius is probably the most, well, it's the most optimistic sign of all. It's the one that can see where it's pointing its arrows. It's the one that can vision the future. It's real visionary energy. So that's the big shift on the first day of the week. So on to December the 1st, you can see that Venus is actually in Sagittarius by then. And we've still got these mutable angles, and it's really important for the full moon coming up. But let's talk about the aspects. First of all, the moon. So the moon is still in Aries, and the moon will trine Mars in Sagittarius. Then it will trine Hecate and Juno. So we've got all that fiery energy really ramping up. Then the moon, so that's more visionary, passionate. I can create this. We're at the crossroads, Mars taking action. Black Moon Lilith, incidentally, keeps bobbing in and out of all these aspects. So she's in the mix too, that wild elemental self, part of ourselves that's been perhaps shamed or felt shamed. And I always think of Brene Brown when I think of shame. It's, we've been living in a culture that is really big on shame, shaming people, feeling shame, for who we are, all our actions, things like that. Anyway, so it's something to deal with, but it's expansive. This is passionate and expansive because the moon is on its way to full. This is a time to really kind of shake things up because the moon will also conjunct Eris, the table turner, heal some old wounds, burn them off. Candle burning off exercises are really good during this fire energy. It's like you scoop the energy of the candle and burn off those energies that need to be gone. But the moon will also square off to Jupiter in Cancer on this day. And Jupiter is the guide for Sagittarius. So the moon is saying release, let go, the past, ancestral patterns, all kinds of things like that in the big pattern of things. So also that Mars will conjunct Hecate. You can see this, all this joining up at 19 degrees, and then Mars will conjunct Juno. Hecate is the crossroads goddess, the triple moon goddess, coming into mind, body, and spirit, or upper world, inner world, and lower world, but also Juno, our sacred contracts. Mars is saying we can vision at this crossroads a time where people remember we are in this sacred contract with each other. Okay. But at a more kind of mundane level, this could be about our individual relationships for sure. Now, more on December the 1st, after the moon conjuncts Eris. We have some other aspects. I'll leave the last lunar. Well, the moon will conjunct. Oh, I've missed her off. I love asteroid Lilith, so I'm going to put her back on. I took her off for a thing I was doing, and she's. Let me add her. Talk to the hand Lilith, as I call her. There she is, finishing her journey in Aquarius. The moon will actually sextile Talk to the hand Lilith, fire and air. This is passionate. People are fed up and saying we can't live like this anymore. More and more people are really waking up. I know it doesn't always feel like it, but they are. Okay, now the other aspects that happen, I've already mentioned Mars. So Venus now in Sagittarius is going to oppose Sedna. Sedna, spiritual destiny through crisis, really looking at this do or die moment that we're in, about what changes we can make, both individually and collectively, and what we might get a glimpse of the changes that are coming out there. But remember, all change comes from the inside out. And I think that's all the aspects for the day. The Sun and Black Moon Lilith meet again. As the Sun moves forward and Black Moon Lilith starts to move back into Scorpio, just shining a light on this kind of energy of the raging harpy, to quote those witch oracle cards, of saying, no, we are not going back. And then at 10:12 p.m., the moon will enter Taurus for just over 2 days. Okay. I say this every time, but I really always love the moon in Taurus because that gives you an opportunity for some real grounding after this real passionate fire and air energy that's really kind of shaking things up. Okay. So on to December the 2nd. The moon, now in Taurus over here, squares off to Pluto. Oh God, I've forgotten to add another of my little extras, which is just so much in play right now that I'm going to add Haumea as well, the regeneration dwarf planet. Okay, here we go. So, but anyway, Venus the moon in Taurus first of all will square off to Pluto and then oppose Haumea. And remember that Pluto and Haumea have 13 exact squares, started in 2022 in Libra and Capricorn, and they're finishing their squares in 2028 in Scorpio and Aquarius. Now, they started in cardinal signs, which is initiating this major transformation and change and messy birthing of something new. And now in the fixed signs, it's how do we manifest what we are to create in this new paradigm. All right. So the moon, okay. Then Venus joins the party as well with a sextile to Pluto. Now, if you've been following my videos for a long time, or if you haven't, I would like to remind you that on December the 7th, 2024, so 5 days, almost a year ago exactly, Venus, Pluto, and Ceres, met at 0 Aquarius. Now, signs and ages are different by precession, but we are definitely moving into this time of air with opportunities to create new ideas, with a renaissance of ideas and things. And we are also moving into the age of Aquarius, which is going to be so different to anything we've experienced before due to the precession of the ages. So the Aquarian energy is coming in 2 ways, is what I'm saying. And Aquarius is the water bearer, if you remember. It's pouring spirit down onto Earth, which is not really water. We could say it's plasma. And I'm going to share with you, actually, I should share an image with you. This is my life. I really I'm just going to send it over to my Mac and I will share it. Okay. I'll quickly share this image with you after I've opened it. This I got in my email inbox this morning. I think it was spaceweather.com. You can probably see it here, but it was on my phone. No, it wasn't. It was an article that popped up on a news site. But anyway, somebody had detected these waves of energy coming from the galactic center. It's a gamma ray intensity map spanning about 100 degrees in the direction of the galactic center. So coming from it, really. This bit's grayed out because that's the galactic plane, so that it didn't impact the image. So this is something that's been unobserved before. Now, this is really big, in my opinion, because we have this new moon on December the 19th coming up. I will do a whole video on that. That is conjunct the galactic center, but also, and I just need to find my software again, also this comet I3 or interstellar object I3 Atlas is believed to have originated from around the galactic center or beyond. It's either come from it or kind of came in past it. It's going past our solar system, closest to Earth on December the 19th, when we have this new moon on the galactic center degree, and then will leave our solar system. This is not what comets usually do, conjunct Jupiter, which is the guide for Sagittarius. So this is really about bringing in new information, new laws, new knowledge, new insights, new belief, new faith. Higher knowledge from the cosmos is being made available to us, it feels like, for me. Anyway, so I haven't gone very far already. So I finished with Venus sextile Pluto, just to add to all the energies that are big. But this is bringing in this. Then, also on December the 2nd, Nessus. Buck stops here, revealer of abuses of power, outer of toxins, or at least shower of toxins. Like Nessus shows us all the toxins that we need to kind of pluck out, if you like. Out damn spot, I've used that phrase a few times. Nessus goes direct. Now this is another part of this major tide turning energy. Saturn stationed direct, Neptune will station direct again. Nessus is stationing direct. Nessus is not leaving Pisces until, I hate to do this, but I really feel like I need to do it so that you guys can see. So I'm on December the 2nd. Nessus, oh, sorry. I meant to put Aries. Sorry about that. Nessus will leave the sign of Pisces for the first time, because Nessus goes retrograde quite often. Okay, that's that. Stop. So it's in 2032 is what I'm saying. April the 14th, 2032. Now, again, if you've been following along, the Pluto out of bounds that I've talked about for the last time in thousands of years it finishes in 2032. Also, this guy Bibhu Dev Misra, I think that's his name, who wrote the book Yuga Shift, says the Kali Yuga is ending and we're starting the ascending yugas, but there's a 300-year transition point. He said kind of the time between 2025 March, back on day before that Venus star point, in fact, on the equinox, which is the 0 Aries point, which is another hot degree. He said the time between 2025 and 2032 are the most significant. So here's another one. It's kind of Nessus finishing up, revealing these toxins and kind of just showing us them so we don't do this anymore. Quite astounding times, honestly, babes. So December 2nd, 2025 to come back to Earth for now. Makes me have enough. I think I'm going to have a lot to talk about still, though, till at least when I'm 72 in 2032. Because, there's such big changes coming. So I can't retire yet, right? That's all right. I really want to. So still on December the 2nd, after Nessus stations direct, the moon over here in Taurus will now trine Vesta and Pholus. We talked about those before. The inner flame, or the fire of the hearth of the state, cause and effect, and the lid comes off, a bit like Pandora's box. So, just activating all the things again. The moon will then aspect the nodes, and the moon will then square Pallas Athena over here. So, the moon is activating kind of all these ideas for the future based on what's being shown in our own lives and collectively. Then lastly, on December the 2nd, Venus will move to 2 degrees, and at the end of the day on the 2nd, Venus at 2 degrees 53. So Ceres is still at the degree of that Venus star point, will make that fire grand trine to her mother, essentially. So I kind of see Venus and Ceres and Pluto as that phase, almost like a triple moon kind of phase. We have Venus, which is the maiden, the earth, the young age, then Ceres, which is the age of maturity, motherhood, and Pluto is kind of like the grandmother, the crone. I think Pluto is actually a feminine energy, so to speak, but it's in all of us. Anyway, this is passionate. This is like, okay, what have we been working on growing identity wise and relationship wise since Venus last retrograde star point on March the 22nd? Where are we at? Because Venus is like reaching her full moon's phase. Are we moving more into wholeness in mind, body, spirit, and healing from the inside out? Okay, so we'll get another reminder here, a big one, because Pluto was involved as well just the day before. So those three are in this mini grand trine. We're really being asked to come into wholeness and realizing that we live in this quantum shamanic realm where there are kind of other realms, if you like, or non-ordinary reality. And that kind of speaks to the photograph I shared coming from there. They think it's dark matter, but they may have identified, they don't know yet. But we know that 95% of the universe, I think I read, is dark matter or the cosmos. What we view as the material world is a small part of it, and we are connecting with those other energies more and more. Okay. And you can choose into them by doing, earth medicine, so to speak, or shamanic journey work, or just kind of meditating in nature and all kinds of things like that. You can also do it with journeying or meditating with the planets and listening to what they tell you. I got one review for my series book about why I didn't talk about people that have Ceres on the descendant, Ceres on the midheaven, or because she had Ceres on the descendant, or more case studies. And I'll tell you why I didn't, because I have a firm belief that we learn to understand the energies of the planet, and then we grow our own relationship with that planet or planetary placement in our charts. That's why my beginners astrology course, Astrology Reimagined, suggests all kinds of activities to actually connect with the energies. Anyway, moon. The moon in Taurus will then square off to Chariklo. Okay, Grace, spinner of Grace, still holding space there, but at almost the same time, the moon will sextile Nessus, which just stationed direct. They're both at 18 degrees in this semi-sextile. The centaurs have come into our consciousness to help us to understand, in its essence, I think, that we are half this human kind of mind energy, if you like, of, we think we, are this thing, and then we're half nature, we're half animal. Centaurs were half human, half horse. They're half animal, we're half we're just animals, really, in many ways, but we do have this ability to connect with the cosmos through the human top half of our head. Okay. Then on December the 3rd as well, the moon will oppose Mercury, which is on the move now, 29. Yeah, we're about leaving the station. It's about 5 days either side from the 29th. This is like taking a hard kind of feel, not look, a feel into what's really emerged in this Mercury retrograde about things that you need to let go of and so on. And then, and I just got a big aha. And then the moon will sextile Jupiter. So this is some big emotions around this, but you're going to feel these emotions in your body. The moon in Taurus is very somatic in nature. Okay. And then the moon will sextile Saturn as well. And this is about releasing more self-limiting beliefs, more blocks, but it's also a little bit more clarity coming. It's all a process, right? Then on December the 3rd, the moon finishes its journey in Taurus with a conjunction with Uranus at 28 degrees. Now, I think we're getting pretty close to Algol again. So Algol's at 26 degrees, I believe. I'm just going to add it. Yeah. So the moon will cross Algol again because Uranus and Algol do not meet exactly, but they're quite close. And she is kind of that Medusa, that raging feminist kind of energy again. But also it's kind of beheads a little bit. We've had some incidents with Algol. But anyway, then last aspect of all is the moon sextiling Neptune, tuning into that somatic emotional connection with all that is. Oh no, last aspect is actually square talk to the hand asteroid Lilith, but that's not such a big one really. Then the moon moves into Gemini for a couple of days, and again the energy really picks up because the moon enters Gemini, another mutable sign. We've got all this Sagittarius mutable, we've got the nodes and all this Pisces mutable, and we're heading towards the full moon, which is a Gemini full moon. So it's massive. But first, on the way, on the 3rd, the moon will meet Sedna, do or die. Big cycles of change, spiritual destiny at the crossroads through crisis, all those things. Okay, what are we learning? Okay, on to December the 4th. The moon will trine Pluto, making a lovely air trine, kind of really looking into what we are purging, what we are cleansing, and how we are stepping into our own personal empowerment. Okay, that's early in the day. Then the moon comes over here and sextiles Eris, who is still at 2 degrees of Aries, which was her station direct degree. So we're getting that repeated message over and over again. How are we learning to meet our own needs in Aries? How are we learning that really the only person that can make sure our needs are met is us? As we come into wholeness in Aries, saying, I know who I am. If it is to be, it's up to me in many ways. But that includes meaning to choosing to be in relationship with people that meet your needs, that are willing to meet your needs, that are not hurting you, basically. Okay, so then the moon in Gemini will come up and oppose Venus. And, that's a hard look at the truth about some of our relationships, I think. And it means our relationship to all things and what we believe and what we think. Okay. Then also on the 4th, Vesta over here in a flame will meet Volus. I've talked enough about them. I think more is going to come out about the corruption and things because of all these, but also the lid's off about what's wrong with the structures. Like, how many times now do we hear the phrase the system is broken? Well, it is. But we can fix it if we choose. Then Venus and Black Moon Lilith meet. And in many ways, because Lilith was the first wife of Adam, being in the myth, Venus is Eve in many ways. Both a bit subversive, by the way, but Eris more so. By the time of Venus or Eve, a lot of that subversiveness had been squashed out of the divine feminine in the myth. You know, she was still subversive, she has those ways, but it was that's kind of the story of the patriarchy, really, right? Okay, so then on December the 4th, talk to the hand. Asteroid Lilith moves into Pisces. She is going to reveal more things that we need to release, or where we need the clouds to clear as well and see. But then, and I am going to get this aspect direct, and of course I will do a full video on this because I have some quite big things to say about this full moon. But one of the things is that this is at 13 degrees Virgo, the sign of the priestessly energy, if you like, but also one who is whole unto herself. It's opposing Pisces, which the North Node, which is our collective future, or where we're being asked to move towards, having more empathy, compassion, forgiveness, all kinds of energy like that. But look at this moon. It's also at 13 degrees. Square the nodes. That's flipping huge. That's a mutable grand cross, which I'll talk more about in the full moon video because there's more to this than I'm even saying here. But this full moons are a release, right? But this is a mutable one. This is a big, like, change, new moon. Change is coming. Let things go. Start to see things differently. Change your perceptions. Open up your mind, okay, to change things and do things differently then. Okay, what do you need to let go of on this full moon? Because what you feel you need to let go of is going to be absolutely huge. And then on the 4th, after that new moon, the moon will come over and trine Wise Owl, Pallas Athena, warrior for justice. It's also strategists here into rabbit holes, saying new ideas are going to come from this, right? Whew, what a time. Okay, so then on December the 5th, I do want to just get us back to the beginning of the day. What a time to be alive, guys. Okay, so on to Friday, Venus Day. Woohoo! And you can see, once I tune in, the moon's still in Gemini. Look where it is in the DC chart though. But also, I'm going to say, look, the nodes and the angles get tighter as the week goes on, by the way. I haven't been pointing that out. We could almost go back, force. The third, the nodes are at the same degree as the ascendant, descendant. That's our collective identity in many ways and how we compromise that for others. Ooh. But anyway, back to us. Moon in Gemini still. We'll trine Cariclo, helping us to weave and tell a new story of our personal self, life, everything. Okay. But it will also square Nessus then. So, as Nessus is now moving forward, slowly, very slowly, we'll start to perceive and understand more toxins and how we can heal any of the toxic behaviors that we may have inherited, or the toxic messages we may have inherited from this society that we're leaving. Right, then on December the 5th too, the moon over here will start to oppose all this lot. The moon will oppose Hecate, the way shower, Crossroads, who is still traveling very closely with Juno. Look, sacred contracts. We're going to have a big hard look at all our relationships and what's our pathway forward. But this also includes our relationship with ourselves, right? Do your self-care. Then the sun over here will reach 13 degrees on December the 5th and will square the nodes exactly. So we're still under the full moon energy, squaring the nodes exactly. Juno and Hecate come together on December the 5th, right on the degree of my sun. That's my solar, my solar return, it will not be till the 13th but this is the degree of my sun. This is incidentally, for all you Swifties out there, the degree of Taylor Swift's sun as well. And the moon will get to 21 degrees as well on December the 5th, sorry, and will oppose um, these as well. So, this is, when's the moon opposing them? Yeah. So when the moon gets to 21, this is a big thing. This would have been a great day for Taylor Swift to get married, but I don't think she's doing it yet. But she might surprise us. Taylor's very good at surprising us like that. But we'll see. Because in some ways, this is the marriage asteroid. But for me, this is going to hit big, but for you, it's going to hit big too, because it's a big opposition. So the moon, our emotions, our feelings about our community, our general friend groups, relationships, but also our perceptions, is going to bring up some big emotions around this major shift and crossroads we're in as it opposes these. And then the moon will right after oppose Mars, will drive action. This is really a week to kind of start taking action towards what you're creating in many ways and letting go of more stuff. And then on December the 5th too, I'll just finish with the moon's aspects. The moon will come up and sextile Chiron and Eris as well. And then the moon will square Saturn. So kind of more letting go of limiting beliefs. Mars, no, I'll come back to that. And then we'll square Neptune. But then the moon will move into Cancer for a couple of days. But reminder that the moon's always out of bounds at these times. So things go a bit crazy when the moon's in Cancer. Very emotional, especially with all the changes that are coming. Other aspects. Ceres will trine Black Moon Lilith, or rather Black Moon Lilith will trine Ceres. But look, Ceres has now left that 2-degree mark. She's really starting to move forward and saying time to really ramp up that attitude of self-care first, I'm going to call it, of self-love first, so that you are able to become intimate from the inside out. All right. Mars over here will trine Chiron on the 5th. So we're having another look into the wound. Remember, Mars is the guide for Aries too. Chiron's at its station direct degree now. What Chiron does, it kind of shines a light into the wound so that we can see it and so that we can give it the medicine, the alchemy. The magician, we can look in and go, okay, what magic or alchemy or medicine does this wound need to heal? This is powerful master builder energy at 22 degrees saying, just, here's the vision of how we can heal more, right? And what action we can take. So on to the 6th, you'll be glad to hear, and then on to the cards. I'm joking. So the moon moves into Cancer, as I mentioned, will actually conjunct Hygeia and square Ceres pretty much at the same time. You can see that they're heading to Ceres, and Hygeia are approaching an exact square. Hygeia is preventative health, holistic healing. This is in the sign of the crab, so it's pulling down your shell, going within and having another good look at your preventative health holistically, mind, body, spirit, and how you feel about this aspect. It's really difficult for people to focus on self-care first. We have been brought up with service is great, service is this, and of course it is. But you are more able to help others when you do your own inner self-care and healing, right? I know I keep talking about that over and over, and I probably will for some time. But it's another message to prioritize it, to spend some time in your shell, looking at what else you need to bring this holistic health and intimacy from the inside out. Okay. And then, but at the same time, the moon trines Hygeia too. I find it so funny that she is regeneration and birth, pretty much, and two of the cards are related to rebirth. One's called Rebirth, and then we've got the goddess of snake, the snake goddess, right? So we'll look at the cards in a minute. But there's a big rebirthing energy towards the end of this week, particularly. Cancer is the sign of the mother too, ruled by the moon. If you want to go full in and you know somebody that does it, you could actually do a rebirthing. Or you could try and journey on it yourself. You might find practices online somewhere of a rebirthing meditation or something, because there's a lot of rebirthing energy at the end of this week, right? Mercury really on the move, but still moving slow, so it's still churning through the watery depths that have been revealing more of this shadow and corruption and of the power over paradigm in a nutshell. But Mercury will trine Jupiter and then will come up to trine Saturn. So you can see this water grand trine, the lines are thick again. But also because we have the moon and Hygeia over here and asteroid Lilith in Pisces, we now have two water grand trines at the end of the week and beginning of next week. These water grand trines are deeply emotional, but they're asking you to really swim in the depths of emotion and to deep dive into how all of this feels. They're asking you to deep dive into your own personal shadows. When I, shadow work's become a bit of a buzz phrase as well, but what it really means is looking at those shadows and making friends with them, because we all have them, rather than rejecting them or stuffing them down, right? Doesn't mean giving them free rein and causing harm. But this is deeply healing again. Then, when the moon has moved past Hygeia, the moon will oppose Pholus and Vesta. So you're looking at your inner flame, you're looking at some more of that cause and effect. But hopefully by this point, you are looking at things and you can take a good look and say, really, I'm kind of doing really well if you've been doing the work at kind of really coming as whole as you can, getting in touch with all the parts of you inside, learning to love the parts that you've been told were wrong. It's an ongoing process again. Then the moon will actually come up to 13 degrees and aspect the nodes again. And we are really then moving into the releasing phase and out of the full moon phase from that full moon. And almost there. On December the 6th, we do have Black Moon Lilith will move back into Scorpio, but remember I do use the osculating, which kind of moves quite wildly. I actually have met somebody in my membership community, the Spiral Codex, a new member, and she has Black Moon Lilith, true and mean calculations, way apart. Now, some people believe that there's a whole path. I kind of think they may be onto something. I think both, in that case, both the true and the mean can speak to you in different ways, right? Okay. But, I have to pick one for these videos. Then the moon, actually, I'm going to get this one right because we have a temporary finger of destiny again, or a yod. So the moon is going to come up and make a quincunx 2. So here's the moon. So the moon is going to quincunx the sun here, and is also going to quincunx Pallas Athena as they approach their exact sextile. So yes, we have another yod. Now, yods with the moon at the point are very brief, really short-lived, but it still provides a... But incidentally, this one is at the degree Jupiter is going to station direct at eventually. So it's, activating something that's going to come up. This is involving Pallas Athena, the wise warrior, justice warrior, the strategist as well, the planner, and the sun in Sagittarius. This is like integrate the visionary wonder energy of Sagittarius into your humanitarian and planning for the future kind of energy and bring it down. Yes, you know, I'm going to say it, into Cancer, pulling in the pincers, saying you have to prioritize loving yourself, self-care, self-healing, self-intimacy first. Wow. All right, onto the cards. What a week again. Oh my goodness. I love it, but you know, it's a lot. But anyway, so remember the cards I pulled. Three of Cups reversed, Rebirth, Goddess of Discs. So I'll hold them up individually. I always pull three of the tarot for the week. So this Three of Cups I pulled reversed. And this kind of goes to something I spoke of and the message of the week, really. Cups are emotion, and moon, Cancer as well, are emotion. And this is celebration and I am joy. But this, because it's reversed, is another big nudge to say it's really about finding that inner healing and inner joy and celebrating that you are learning that that's the only way forward to do healing from the inside out, intimacy from the inside out, whatever. So I'm going to read this lovely quote from John Lennon. We've got this gift of love, but love is like a precious plant. You can't just accept it and leave it in the cupboard or think it's going to get on by itself. You've got to keep watering it. You've got to really look after it and nurture. Do your self-care. And again, I don't really mean like manicures by that. I mean, do things that really light you up first. And then you are more able to help others. You just are. Okay, so that's the Goddess of Discs. Okay, then the card I pulled, Rebirth. This is the Trinity, mind, body, spirit as well. And the quote with this says, sometimes you kind of have to die inside in order to rise from your own ashes and believe in yourself and love yourself to become a new person. Another one saying, wake up to the fact that you've got to do that first before you are able to really love others for who they are. Okay? Wow. So when I started this journey, I was asked to write a list of 100 things that meant self-care to me. That brought me joy, lit me up. I don't think I ever got to 100, but I found regular practices that fill my heart with joy, that make me more able to help others from a place of wholeness, not depletion. All right, so then the Goddess of Discs, Snake, which is I Am Rebirth. But this is the end of the week, upright. So, I'm going to read, the power of life causes the snake to shed its skin just as the moon sheds its shadow. Right. So, this is just transformation. And the snake, incidentally, is sheds its skin. It's Kundalini energy as well. It's kind of the vagus nerve that goes up the central system as well. This is a real week of rebirth energy, but you have to do it by focusing on the inside out. And there was a story I was going to tell you. Oh no, that's on the next card. So that brings me to the last card. So focus on building up that practice of self-care more this week, okay, and healing. Okay. So the Gardener of Hope. When I did my shamanic training, there's a shamanic journey that we do. that journeys to the middle world, which is kind of like non-ordinary reality. You kind of open a door to it and just step through into this magical world that's not ordinary and everybody's is different. That's the middle world that's kind of alongside the linear world that we think we live in. Anyway, in that practice, we actually did a journey to plant our personal garden. And then we would go back and tend it regularly to see how our garden was growing as we did that self-care and intimacy from the inside out. Let me just shut my door. Oh, my husband came home early because it's Thanksgiving tomorrow. He's home really early. Anyway, we might think of hope as a flower or plant, in tendrils pushing ever upward and outward, despite the harsh conditions of winter and the ravages of storm. But actually, hope is more like the soil. By the way, Sagittarius is a hope sign too. But actually, hope is more like the soil. It's the ground in which we grow. Without hope, we struggle to find meaning. It's next to impossible to get out of bed in the morning if your hope has dried out or been stolen away by crisis or heartache. Though hope may at times seem far away, its nature is dog-like in its loyalty. It will never abandon you. Not truly. It may feel far away, but it's deeply connected to your soul at all times. If you are struggling, I'm going to skip to, if you are struggling to find meaning, seek an ally. It could be a power animal or just your inner voice or spirit that will help you create a safe space so you can tell your story and hear your own voice with loyalty and compassion. Hope will return. Now is the time to tend that garden. Oh, I love it. But anyway, I'll be going off and doing my self-care and tending my garden, for sure. But don't forget, it's the last day to sponsor me for the human race today, the 26th, as I record this. By the time some of you watch it, it'll be past that date. And because of that, it's the last day to get the discount off my membership. I was actually going to close any chance of getting in the membership for now, but I can't for some technical reasons. But it's the last day to get the discount. So bye. The doors will be closing later, but I will announce when that is. See you later.